right.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Pigskin Breakdown. Brandon Ghost Leonard here with my guy Jay Jordan Cole. How you doing this evening, Jay?
Doing great. Another night to talk football. Speaking of football, weather outside, man, it's got me itching to hear the pads popping. It's beautiful out today.
I know. It feels like fall, and we've got a lot to talk about this evening with a very special guest. We'll get into that in just a second. As for other housekeeping items with Sports Guys Iowa, we got a lot going on right now. New episode of the Chad Harbert Show just dropped with Quinn Douglas over at KQWC Sports in Webster City. Peacock Corner Show, Jason Hoskins, head coach up at Upper Iowa, just joined the program with them. Sarah Hold, the head coach of the volleyball program as well. And then Bowser and Duttler have just been going deep in the valley left and right. They've got Illinois State women's basketball coach Kristen Gillespie, Kelly Bond White at Southern Illinois, Scott Nagy at Southern Illinois. And I think they covered pretty much everything at Valpo last week too. So a lot of stuff going on at SGI. We're trying to pull our weight here. And our special guest this week is a really fun one. We typically have college coaches on this, but we like to pivot in the high school game as well. So we've brought on Coach Casey Krull, head coach over at Iowa Valley in Marengo. Casey, how you doing this evening? First and foremost, really appreciate you coming on the program.
Yeah, I'm doing well tonight. I appreciate you guys having me on your show.
Yeah, and you had a heck of a season in 2025. We'll get into that in a little bit, but first, can you tell us a little bit about how you got to where you're at right now? Maybe start off, where'd you go to high school? Did you go to any colleges, play a little ball there? And maybe what got you into coaching and teaching?
Yeah, so first I went to North Butler High School. So I grew up in Allison, Iowa. And then after that, had a good 4 years there, played 4 sports, and then went to Wartburg to play football. Had a really good experience there from 2011, 2015. Got to learn under a lot of great coaches there, Coach Willis, even all the rest of the coaches there. Played defensive line my first 2 years there, and then actually got switched over to the offensive side, played center my last 2 years at Wartburg, part of a couple conference titles when it was still the Iowa Conference. Obviously, it's changed. And then had a chance to play on some playoff football teams my junior and senior year. So got some experience of doing that. And then kind of got me in coaching is I didn't know what I really wanted to do. So I was undecided going into college and took a couple business classes. Didn't think they were for me. Thought, hey, let's try the education route. So decided to go into education, got into coaching, and then met my wife up there at Wartburg. So pretty fortunate to be able to do that. And then so that's what kind of got me into it. And then after that, Benton Community, their head football coach reached out to the Wartburg coaching staff and got me in for an interview, and then went to Benton Community right out of college, and then just kind of started snowballing everything from there.
That's great. Yeah, learning from the guys at Wartburg probably definitely lit a fire under you because they always have a history of winning there. But I was just a little bit curious about, so you're the head track and field coach as well as the head football coach, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about like the importance of these kids getting involved in multiple athletics and aspects? I know Iowa Valley, you was 8-man, smaller school, but when I went to high school at 3A, we had head baseball coach, head football coach butting at each other's heads for workout time. So it wasn't always conducive of getting players to want, or not even want, but just to be able to be involved in a couple athletics at a time. Can you talk about the importance of getting these kids involved in all athletics within the community?
Yeah, I think it's awesome for kids to be involved in multiple sports. We have quite a few 3 and 4 sport athletes. I think we have a lot of 4 sport athletes. And I think it just helps overall because you're just not focused on one thing. So you're always switching it up, and it's always just a little bit different. The sport demands something just a little bit different every time. Some of our guys go from football to wrestling, football to basketball. They're just different things, different sports. They get away from me for a little bit. And then a lot of them come back to me in track season. So that I get to see them there. And just the different demands of the sports, I think, is huge on the body. So it's just not getting fatigued of doing one thing over and over with that. And then we have some guys that also transfer or go play baseball in the summer too. So it's really it's huge that I'm the track coach because I'm 2 of the 4 or 5 sports coaches. So to get the workouts, people bought into that. It's been really good. We average between 35 to 40 kids in the weight room in the summer. So that's great numbers for us. And our upperclassmen have been really consistent showing up. So we're really fortunate to have that. And we're just all on the same page with our coaching staff of getting kids into the weight room because we know how important it is to get those workouts. And if a coach has a concern, I run the weight rooms. We communicate, we talk about things, and we try to figure out what's best for the athletes and just try to keep them at the center of what we're trying to do here to make everybody happy, healthy, and compete at the highest level.
Yeah, it certainly takes a village. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there is some overlap with a lot of the coaches. It's not just you coaching multiple sports. There's Coach Krull, who is the head coach of the wrestling program. Is he still involved with the football program as well? Or
Yeah, so he is. So this year he's going to be in a little bit different role. He was the junior high head football coach for a long time, and then he would sit up in the booth on Friday nights. This year he's going to help out with the high school level, be a volunteer coach, and still be up in the booth. And then actually our head boys basketball coach, Josh Konachek, he's an assistant for me on the football staff. And then the head baseball coach is also a junior high football coach. So we're kind of all somehow, some way a part of the football staff. So I think that just kind of helps us out as well as everybody kind of sees what we do on the football field and see how we kind of bring things together too. So I think that's crucial as well.
Yeah. Everyone fighting the same fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Just trying to get kids to be out because I think there's a lot of good in kids being a part of something. It doesn't matter what it is out of school because then they take a little bit more pride in the school because they're a part of something and that's just not just going to school.
Yeah, they all buy in together. You did mention about your upperclassmen really stepping up. And speaking of upperclassmen, you're not losing a whole lot from last year's football team in terms of production. Can you talk a little bit about how last season went? I know it didn't end in the dome like you may have hoped so, but kind of the success you guys had and how you're looking to build on that for this coming season?
Yeah, we're losing 5 seniors, 3 that contributed quite a bit to us. So those kids are going to be tough to replace, but I think we have some kids that will step up in those different roles to help us out. But yeah, last season we had a really good year. We started off with 2 really good games, actually 3. Springville, even though the score looked like it was, that was a tough battle. Those guys were a quality opponent. And then you're rolling to Don Bosco and then you're rolling to Montezuma. And those 2 are 2 really good programs. And if you look at our Montezuma game, that thing was a shootout and those things get a little bit stressful. But even the Don Bosco game, we didn't really know what we had going into that game. Our kids showed up and showed that, hey, we're a pretty good football team. And I think we kind of showed that throughout the year. Our district, we have a lot of teams that have been really good in the past. You got Waco, Winfield, Belle Plaine. They're always tough. So we always have a lot of tough teams in that district. And obviously we made the playoffs, had a good run, and then we ran into a really tough Audubon team. And Audubon, they were big. They had a lot of good skills. It was a really competitive game. They took it to us the first half, and then we battled back in the second half. And I got to give a lot of credit to those guys and what they did. And we just unfortunately came up a little bit short, but I think that fuels our kids for this upcoming season that we didn't quite get to where we thought we needed to be or wanted to get last year. And I think they remember that. And I think it's going to help hopefully push us this year to try to get over that hump a little bit. And it's going to be an exciting season because there's a lot of good football teams in 8-man.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people that may never seen an 8-man game. There's just so many unique things that go into it. I was looking at some of the scores and you look at a game that might be a 2-possession game on the scoreboard, but I hate to compare 8 to 11 man, but it feels like even a 2-score game might be closer to a 1-score game. And the games, I guess what I'm trying to get is the games can just get flipped on their heads so quickly. You've got how many guys on your team last year? You look at the stat sheet. Kriegel had a 69-yard run. Pesca as long as 65. Braun Hawkins 65, 68, 64. It's an 80-yard field. So you could score one play, no problem, and be right back in the game, no problem. And I think you got a bit of a meat grinder there too. Like you said, Don Bosco, always a great program in a tough district. How much say do you have with the non-district schedule? Do you submit a list of schools you might want to play to the state, or do you got to contact other programs? What goes into that, Coach Krull?
Yeah, so technically you rank them, but a lot of people reach out prior to that. So you'll make contact with an AD or a coach at the other school and be like, hey, are you guys interested in playing a non-district game? And then if both are in agreement that, hey, yeah, we want to play, you put them higher on your list. So maybe you put them out of 1, and then you reach out to another school and they're like, yes, we want to play you guys. So then you put them at your 2. And then if you got those filled, the state, I think, tries to fulfill that. I don't know how that all works out. But you just reach out to a bunch of teams that you're like, hey, I'm interested in playing those guys. And so Montezuma, we had already been in conversation as the districts were coming out, and we saw each other at track and like, hey, let's get that game. And then I reached out to Don Bosco, seeing if they wanted to play a game. We were fortunate that both of those schools wanted to. with that. And then the Springville was a crazy deal because season was about to start and Lone Tree showed up first day of practice and decided that we can't do this. So we lost that game. So then we had to scramble to find a game. And thankfully Springville's was willing to play us week 0 last year. And so we'll play them again this year. So that's kind of how that came about. So it's a never changing landscape, unfortunately, with programs. Doesn't matter if it's 8-man or 11-man, you see in programs that maybe think they're going to have a team and it doesn't work out. So it's just unfortunate to see that.
It absolutely is. Do you, and maybe I'm off base, you don't have to answer this, but do you see any of the new, I call it the 5-for-5 rule? It feels any of the junior high kids playing any varsity football this year, or any conversations about that right now? Or
I think where we're at, I don't think I'm not going to pull anybody up. I just don't have anybody it's just really hard for football because you're going to have 18-year-olds going against maybe 13-year-olds. That's a big difference when you're talking about the physicality of football. I'm sure there's going to be some 8th graders this year around the state that are able to compete at the varsity level. And it'll be interesting to see the kids that do play it. And I just hope that kids aren't being pulled up to try to fill a team and then they just go out and they don't enjoy it. I guess I don't know. It's going to be a tough landscape. I'm not going to pull anybody up. It's just going to be what we have. We have almost 30 juniors and seniors.
Yeah.
So we've got a really good upperclassmen crew. And plus even our sophomores and freshmen are a pretty solid group too. Yeah. I guess I'm not. I don't know if other 8-man schools or 11-man schools are planning on doing it, but that's just kind of where I'm at. Now you get to track season. That's probably better likelihood that I would pull somebody up for track because you're not going out there and taking on an 18-year-old and someone trying to not necessarily hurt you, but get after you a little bit. Right.
For sure.
Yeah. Collision sport. We've had a few clips that have drew up a lot of comments, people saying that if it's just a numbers thing for some schools, that can be even bigger problem because maybe they're getting pulled up when they're not even physically ready for this. And if you're getting, I don't know, you go head on across the middle, good luck if you're an 8th grader, but there are definitely some kids that'll be ready for that. I just wanted to touch on a little bit. What do you want your Tiger football team to be, people take away from this season once it's all said and done? Maybe not built on just outcomes and games, but what would you like to have people say about your squad?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the thing that I think of is a team that's going to go out and compete no matter what happens, right? And just a team that's going to play hard from the first whistle to the last whistle, and a team that never gives up. I want people to be like, wow, we played the Tigers on Friday night and we woke up Saturday morning and we're like, wow, that was a hard-hitting game, and both teams felt it. That's what I want it to be physical. I want it to be smash mouth, physical game. And I think we did that last year, and I think that's hopefully what people take away. But then I also want teams to walk away and be like, all right, I respect that team for what the product they put on the field, the way their players handle themselves. I think that's also a big thing as well, is how are you represented after the game by the fans from the opposing team, the coaches, the players. I think those are always big things as well that I hope the opposing side takes away from what we do on the field. And obviously we hope to make a really deep run this year. That's that. But if people can take away, wake up Saturday morning and be like, wow, that was a heck of a football game that we just played.
For sure. Yeah. It's a great goal to have. Cause I mean, it's at the end of the day, it is more than just wins and losses. And the kids are going to be carrying life lessons for the rest of their lives. And I could think back to teams I played years ago when I was in high school, and I can remember certain players and how the competitors that they were, programs, things of that nature. Talk about competitors too. You guys have some serious weapons, and this is me going to say it. I feel like I can say it. You're not going to say it. You'll give me some coach speak, but Nolan Kriegel is probably the most incredible player returning in 8-man this year. Landon Bloom too, over Woodbine, kind of a big name, but the stats that he puts up are just unreal. And tune in and dial in your ears, folks, for these stats if you never heard them. Nolan Kriegel's the quarterback. We almost ran for 2,000 yards last year, averaged almost 11 a pop, 43 touchdowns. He still threw for almost 800 yards, 13-1 touchdown interception ratio. And then there's plenty of other guys that you could sub in too when Kriegel's not running. You got Dane Smith as well. Now, is he in the backfield then, I'm guessing, with Nolan Kriegel at all time?
Yeah, yep. Yeah. Sometimes he's split out. I'd say, man. So sometimes they're in the box, sometimes they're out of the box. So all kind of depends.
Yeah, you never know, and you can add those wrinkles in with your Jets. But then you got the Hoyt twins. I guess they're triplets. Then Lane Pesca as well can chip in. Hawkins, Peterson. Shoot, Peterson, you got to give that guy the ball more. He's batting 100 for scoring touchdowns last year in varsity.
Yeah, you're right. I know. You got to get that. I got to go to the guys that got the stats. If he's 1,000, if he's batting 1,000, we got to give him the ball, right?
Yeah, that's how I see things. But no, you just got production all over the place. And those Hoyt guys, 50 tackles for loss between the two of them, and Kriegel as well. Everyone just gets into it. It seems like if you don't really have that many bad nights, but it seems like if you do have a guy that's maybe having a little bit of an off night, there's so many guys where you can have them elevate their game and really help the Tigers succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're fortunate we can go to different options when we need to. Nolan's a special guy when he has the ball in his hands. So we tailor a lot of things around that. But then you look at it, if you're keying in on him, we've got other guys that can beat you, like you're saying, like Dane Smith. He's a really talented ball carrier. Chance Hoyt's going to get you the tough yards. He's just a really tough kid. You got him. You got Lane Pesca, can carry the ball, catch the ball, can play about anywhere. And then a couple kids this year that I think will step up, receiving the ball a little bit more will be Chandler McKibben and Xavier Peterson. I'm really excited to see what those guys can do on the outside for us, catching the ball. So those will be a couple guys I think we can get some more production out of this year with that. But then I got to give a lot of credit to our offensive line. I really do. Those guys, we don't do what we do on offense without those guys up front. Even I'll say our X and our Y do a really good job of blocking as well. And then I got to give it to our F and our T. They're not getting necessarily all the carries. We run the quarterback. That's just what we do. So really all those guys, the guys up front, they communicate so well. We're so fortunate. A defense could run out there, and we haven't seen it all week, and it might take us a series, but after that, they'll communicate, they'll click it off, and I'm able to trust those guys to make that. Our offensive line coach, Dan Silver's done a really good job of getting those guys to talk, communicate, and just get things figured out up front. And so it's crucial to have a group like that. We are losing our center from last year, so we're trying to figure out how to replace that up front. But even we've already started camp because we have a week 0 game, and we start our official practice August 3rd. So we've had some different guys rotating into that position, but we're still hearing them communicate even without your center's kind of like the guy that starts everything. So it's just awesome to have guys 4 or 5 guys that can kind of rotate in right now and still be able to communicate what's going on up front. So I think that's just huge for us. So, hey, if a team's really keen, Nolan, let's go somewhere else. But then defensive side of the ball, I have to give credit to our defense coordinator, Dan Silvers. Does a really good job. What we do defensively might be a little bit different than what other people do around the state, but I think that makes us unique. You look at the playoff game, most people will be like, well, sometimes the defense just gets looked upon as, wow, did they even do anything that game? But you look at me as the offensive coordinator and be like, wow, did the offense even game plan? But Audubon and us had a really good defensive night. And most of the time you had Audubon, who was probably, I think, the top scoring offense coming in, and we were probably number 2. And it's a 26-19 game. I don't think anybody probably saw that coming into that game, to be honest with you. So I think defensively, you got the Hoyts. Those guys are really physical. And then Lane Pesca does a really good job of setting our defense. He plays like a robber, plays in the middle of the field. But he'll come down and strike you, and he's a ball hawk in the middle of the field. And then our defensive line, they do a really good job. We can rotate guys in there, make plays, keep them fresh with that. So we are losing Josh Reed. Josh Reed was he was a lockdown corner last year, so we're going to have someone step up in his position. But I think we've got a few different guys that I think can do it. Dane Smith, Chandler McKibben, Xavier Peterson. Those guys are going to be in the mix to fulfill that role. So, yeah, we do some different things defensively that if, let's say, we need to give someone a blow, we can bring in an extra defensive lineman. So we're just multiple 2 front, 3 front, 4 front. We can do it all, mix and match a little bit. So if we're getting exposed one way, we can maybe switch it up, go another way. So we're just really fortunate, and our guys have been doing it. These seniors, a lot of them played quite a few minutes their freshman year. They're really experienced. They understand what we're trying to accomplish. And I go to practice, and sometimes I'm like, man, that was a really good practice for day 1. But these guys, you think about it, how many reps they've had since their freshman year to now. It's incredible.
Yeah, getting all that experience, and that's only going to pay dividends in the long run.
You talk about different things that you do, and there's one staring me in the eye right now. You guys kick a lot of PATs. You don't always see that in small school ball, especially 8-man. Don't you know 2's worth more than 1?
Yeah, but if you don't make your 2 points.
3-2.
I don't know. So last year was the first year we kicked PATs, because before that we always went for 2. And so Mason Hoyt, he just started kicking them last year against Springville. the very opening kickoff, we kicked it out of the end zone for a touchback, and we went crazy on the sideline because we don't have that. We don't have a guy that just kicks it in the end zone every time. That's a big deal because the year before that, our kickoff team was not very good. I specifically remember playing HLV a couple of years ago. They returned a kickoff, we returned the next kickoff, and then they returned the next kickoff, and I lost I was not in a good place. So when we kicked that first ball out of the end zone this year, I was like, wow, this is awesome. We don't even have to worry about them taking it back on us. But yeah, so we just practice it, and right now, I think it's huge to be able to kick a PAT because I think sometimes if you go for 2 all the time, you use up all your creative plays, and then you don't have any creative plays left for when you really need them. So I think that as a play caller helps me try to save some of those creative plays for when we need a big 2-point play. In the playoff game, we tried a creative play and didn't work, unfortunately, but I didn't have to use it until then. So I think that just kind of helps out. And I think the 1 point, if you got a really good guy, is kind of almost automatic. You could argue that you have to make half of your 2 points versus your PATs. So I don't know.
Shoot, he looks like about an 80% clip and got another year under his belt. You'd hope that he just keeps progressing. Does he do the toe? Does he toe it through, or has he got the soccer sweep? Or
he soccer sweeps it, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I'm not a kicking coach. I just tell him, hey, just run up there and kick that ball.
Just get it through those uprights, my friend.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We love that. Jay, you said you do have another question. We proceed to be the fun one on the show, the one everyone wants to know about.
Yeah, you got to keep stacking up all these restaurants, maybe small bars around the state. So if I were a fan coming to Marengo for an Iowa Valley football game to watch you respect all 3 facets of the game with kicking PATs, where's a spot pregame that you'd send me for a meal, or maybe you can just get a drink? And what's your go-to order at that spot?
So I don't know. It's a little bit tougher now, but if I was going to, I'm a big bowling alley guy. They just do it really well there. But they're rivaled right now for me with the new Mexican restaurant that's in town. They do a really good job too uptown. But if I'm going to go to bowling alley, probably going double bacon cheeseburger, cheese fries. So it's where it's at. Leonard probably knows what I'm talking about.
Man, I tell you what, it sounds so silly to tell people that the best place to eat in your area is the bowling alley, but Lucky 6 Lanes is incredible. I've never had a bad meal there. And their cheese fries, they're undefeated. I've went far and wide trying to find something that stacks up with them. And the Rock Bar downtown Cedar Rapids has some pretty good cheese fries. I still don't think they stack up to Lucky 6 Lanes.
Yeah.
Man, that was the one I was waiting to hear. But yeah, it's good to see a little bit of the Mexican restaurant there too, and shooting out too far away from Williamsburg. Got some fun spots, Humana Colonies as well. Some good little watering holes in Marengo.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that could wrap things up. Casey, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. And best of luck to the Tigers this year. I'm excited to follow them. Hopefully everyone stays healthy and scoreboard can operate or wears out their fingers, adding up the points.
I hope so as well. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. So you guys do an awesome thing covering sports. It's cool to see that people are getting exposure that might not necessarily get it all the time. So it's awesome that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, appreciate you hopping on, and best of luck this season.
Yeah, appreciate you. All right, everyone. Again, that was Coach Casey Krull over at Iowa Valley. Be sure to follow along with all the other shows we got going on. As we mentioned, Peacock Corner show's been hopping. Deep in the Valley's been going crazy. Chad's been doing his thing at all the state events, and he's going to be turning the page here to focus on all the ball sports that we got going on. For Jay, Jordan Cole, I'm Ghost Brandon Leonard. You take care, everyone.